little late this morning. It's about 9:30 or so. 76 degrees. Remember last week at 10 a.m. it was still 63 degrees. So we have warm air advection down near the ground out the door in South Dennis. But we have cooler air advection aloft. And that is instability. When you put low density warm air beneath higher density cold air, it tends to turn over. Convection, and we have convective cumulus here before 10 a.m. in South Dennis. And we've also got altocumulus castellanus. We call it ACC, and that's when the mid-level altocumulus starts bubbling up, sometimes taking the form of old castles on the top. Although you don't really see the castles, trust me, that's castellanus. And we are having a severe thunderstorm day in southern New England today, perhaps including Cape Cod. It's not a real obvious feature. If you look at the temperature and dew point map this morning about 9, in Boston, what was it, 73 over 63, something like that, with the wind kind of from the northwest. Then on the coast of Maine, the wind was from the east-northeast with temperature and dew points in the 60s. That's surface convergence when a northwest meets a east wind, and there's growing cold air mass aloft. Lost count of how many of these upper level cool pools have stalled over New England, resulting in flooding in the last 8 to 10 weeks. Well, here we go again today. The first signs came in last night with slow-moving thunderstorms captured by Ryan Knapp, weather napper, on top of Mount Washington in the middle of the night. I actually did wake up in the middle of the night and saw some of those lightning strikes on that north camera on the Mount Washington summit. And then Mary in Colebrook says, we had a lot of rain last night, a lot of thunder. And as of 8 o'clock this morning, Jim Cantori was tweeting out, or posting on X. There's no longer tweeting on Twitter. It's now posting on X of, I'm not sure where we got the numbers, but 3 to 5 inches of rain near Madison, Maine, with a flash flood warning to start the day. So when you get thunderstorms at night, that's called nocturnal convection. A lot of times thunderstorms are driven by heating of the day by the sun, but there's much more dynamic at play. And the Severe Storm Prediction Center says a huge area of severe weather on the northwest side of the heat, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, and then here in the northeast, it's a different reason. We have severe weather, likely in our area, probably as we speak, as I get this out the door, Weather and More published. Thunderstorms are erupting all around us, and there's a very strong lapse rate with temperatures cooling about 8 degrees Celsius per couple of kilometers. Is that right? 1,000 joules per kilogram of convective available potential energy, that word CAPE. So the ingredients are here. It's an upper level low. The radar, well, first the satellite this morning around 8 o'clock, the satellite showed incongruity. Fog in the valleys of New York and Pennsylvania. Again, that's a sign of stability in the atmosphere. High barometer cold where it cools off, and the valleys are the coolest. And then over Maine, that's a sign of instability with towering cumulonimbus at sunrise this morning in Maine. So quite a dynamic going on here in the Northeast. And right where I'm standing right now, it feels like Florida. The sun's coming and going. The air's not moving very much at all. And the air up in the sky is starting to get colder. If I show you just the upper level low over the Northeast, you can see the center of the upper level low is kind of on the coast of Maine, and that's where it's coolest aloft, and also no motion in the atmosphere. So those storms in Maine just sitting there, and then the wind gets stronger on the edge of the upper low over western, southwestern New York and Pennsylvania, and it's right on the boundary between that no wind and that increasing wind that the severe weather is most likely this afternoon. And if I show the HRR, I'll just show you the QPF, which was already underdone. Parts of Maine have already had 3 inches of rain. And you can kind of see the cyclonic nature and the heaviest rain showing up in the purple blotches, but you can't go town by town. Any town has potential today to get 2 or 3 inches of rain, and also 1 to 2 inch diameter hail with the freezing level below 10,000 feet. So I don't really think you come to me for the short range weather forecast. I think you come to me more for the big picture and how things change in the forecast day to day and the general state of the atmosphere. How about a really big picture? Do you remember the forecast for the hurricane season? It's supposed to be exceptionally active in the Atlantic and fairly quiet in the Pacific. Well, here's the Pacific Ocean this morning. We have 2 H storms, I don't know how that happens, and a G storm, and an S storm headed for southern Japan, typhoon. And so it's incredibly active in the Pacific. The storm chasers are all over that. James Reynolds and Josh Margerman together again for the first time in, what did they say, 11 years, chasing that storm in Japan. So follow those guys on X. And the Atlantic Ocean, completely quiet, not only in the 48-hour forecast, but the 7-day forecast says also no tropical cyclone activity expected in the next week. And we are in the heart of hurricane season. Now, a lot of times when you have the cold high pressure systems like the one we had over the last several days, on the backside of that, something usually forms in the Gulf of Mexico. And so far, nothing really other than heavy rains and little waves of energy coming on in Florida and southeastern United States. So this high is kind of just disintegrating around us and turning into increasingly hot air mass now. Excessive heat watches and warnings in effect in several states, Wisconsin to South Dakota to Illinois and Indiana. And the storms are riding over the top of that and then around onto our side. And that boundary is going to be here all week long. So we're just getting started on this really crazy, call it nowcasting. What's the weather doing now in the next 6 hours kind of week, where we're going to have strong showers and thunderstorms, slow moving with hail and potentially damaging winds. The kind of storms just turn into dynamos all week long. There's this afternoon's map. You have the high pressure around us, but the low with the red outlined green, very weak low pressure. That's very weak surface convergence, but that's all it takes. And then if I just skip ahead to Wednesday morning, static map there from the World Weather Prediction Center, you see another cold front coming into Ontario. So the reason for the storms today is from upper level cool pool and instability, and then the reasons for storms on Wednesday and Thursday are going to be because we're on the boundary between the heat trying to come at us and a high pressure system moving across Ontario and Quebec. So let's go to the day by day, play by play. No, we're going to stop it right there. It's just weather, no more, because we have breaking news. There are severe thunderstorms crossing Cape Cod Bay, and we're going to chase. We're going to go over to Scargo Tower and see if we can watch. They're probably evacuating the beaches. And more, and the rest of the forecast coming up in a little while. Let's go, Rex.